In this video, I'd like to go over a little bit more about the double bubble and kind of what I'm looking for with that. So you are reading again Kozel's book, and you're choosing two chapters between the ranges of chapters 2 and 5. So you could choose chapters 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 5 and 2. So 2 chapters is what you're going to be reading from Kozel. And again, it needs to be within that range from chapters 2 through 5. So that should be Chicago, New York, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., and again, you're choosing 2 of those chapters to read. Now, what I'm having you look for are what are some of these kind of overarching patterns? What are we seeing again and again? What are some of the differences that you're seeing? And so in order to capture that information, you're going to be capturing it through a double bubble map, or it's a type of thinking map. And so the double bubble is kind of like a Venn diagram. You know, and I'm sure you've done a million of those over your lifetime in school, where you've got one topic, another topic. You're giving examples here and examples there, and then the similarities go in the middle. Well, double bubbles are on that same kind of premise, but the thinking is elevated a bit. And the reason that is because the attributes on the differences need to correlate. So if you look at the example here, the difference between graphic organizer and a thinking map is thinking maps are based on a fundamental thinking skill, whereas a graphic organizer is based on an isolated task. So if you have something noted over here on one topic, then your difference has to correlate to that same point, if that's making sense. So it's not that you can say the thinking maps are graphic organizers and graphic organizers are, you know, great to use in a classroom. Those two ideas don't correlate. They don't complement one another. So when you're creating this double bubble, it's okay, if wealthy schools over here are getting these things, let's say talking about school facilities, then what are you seeing with the low income or the high minority school? What are you seeing over here as far as school facilities? So if it's one thing over here, well, what is the opposite happening? So that you're actually showing the compare and the contrast. So for your double bubble map, topic 1 is going to be basically what are you seeing in schools with high concentrations of minority and maybe high concentrations of poverty versus the schools who have maybe high concentrations of wealth or high concentrations of primarily white students. So what are some of those things, you know, as you've read both chapters, what are some of those things that you're seeing different between those 2 types of schools? What are some of the things that you're seeing the same? So that's why I want you to read, 2 chapters, so you're really getting an idea, is this a pattern or is this something that's just isolated, let's say, to Chicago or isolated to Washington, D.C.? So what I really want you to push for is between those 2 chapters, what are you seeing repeatedly again and again as the differences between schools who have high poverty and low poverty, or schools between high minority population and high white population? And so you're going to end up completing this over the 2 chapters and then submitting it in your discussion board as an attachment.